Part 33. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 321. Chapter 321 Confession, First Update. When Kui Hejin was in the kitchen, he moved very lightly, fearing to disturb Zhang Ziluo while she was resting. In fact, with Kui Hejin by his side, not only did Zhang Ziluo instinctively feel at ease, but the aura on Kui Hejin's body was soft. Kui Hejin was not very good at cooking before. He learned a little while cooking with Ji Luo in Donghe village. Of course what he is best at is cooking noodles. He remembered that Ji Luo also liked to eat noodles in the past. Kui Hejin boiled the water first, poured it back and forth between the two cups to make sure the water temperature was normal, and then brought it to the house for Zhang Ziluo to drink. Just when he returned to the house, he found Ziluo asleep. Kui Hejin couldn't help but slow down his steps. He came to the bed and sat down, looking at her peacefully sleeping face. His eyes suddenly turned red. She stayed quietly by his side like this. Even if she just fell asleep like this, the pain in his heart would be lessened. No one knows how much he misses her. At this moment, Kui Hejin had a deep and lingering look in his eyes. Some turbulent emotions were restrained by him. He stretched out his hand and gently covered her with the quilt, tucking it in at the corners. He just looked at her quietly. After a while, he reached out his hand and wanted to touch her eyebrows, but he was worried about waking her up. He sighed lightly, got up, and went to the kitchen to cook. While cooking, I moved more gently and tried not to make any noise. Zhang Ziluo slept deeply and vaguely smelled a fragrance. It is a familiar aroma, the aroma of noodles. In a trance, in the dream, Kui Hejin is everywhere. Zhang Ziluo seemed to feel hungry and woke up after smelling the fragrance. She got up and went to the kitchen. I saw Kui Hejin serving the noodles. Wow, have you made noodles? Zhang Ziluo's eyes were shining brightly. She still remembered the noodles that Kui Hejin made for her when she was not feeling well when she came there before. The taste is really fragrant. Haven't eaten for a long time. Kui Hejin looked gentle and said, "Well, are you awake?" "Well, I woke up when I smelled the fragrance. The noodles you made still smell good." I don't know if it's a psychological effect, but she just likes the noodles made by Kui Hejin. Perhaps because she likes and misses him, she will always have feelings in her heart as long as she has something to do with him. If you like it, I'll cook it for you. Zhang Ziluo blinked and looked at Kui Hejin. What if I want to eat it every day? Kui Hejin's heartstrings trembled violently. He looked deeply at Zhang Ziluo, his throat rolled, and he said hoarsely, "I will do it for you every day." Hearing these words, Zhang Ziluo felt relieved. "This is what you said." Zhang Ziluo was happy. "Then let's eat." She happened to be hungry. Good. Kui Hejin poured water for Zhang Ziluo so that she could wash her hands. Since the weather is a bit cold now, Kui Hejin mixed hot and cold water for Zhang Ziluo to make sure it was warm water. When Zhang Ziluo washed her hands, she was surprised to find that the water was warm. She looked at Kui Hejin, who was holding chopsticks and a bowl, and had to sigh with emotion. He was really attentive and gentle. Every move is also full of dignity and elegance. Zhang Ziluo looked at him, reluctant to look away. After washing up, Zhang Ziluo sat down, and Kui Hejin handed the chopsticks and spoon to him. Zhang Ziluo took it and started eating. It's delicious. Seeing that she liked to eat, Kui Hejin also had a clear and shallow smile in his eyes, like the moon falling into a deep pool and crushing a puddle of clear water. Seeing her happy face, Kui Hejin's heart felt so soft. Kui Hejin said warmly, "Eat slowly and be careful not to burn it." Zhang Ziluo looked up at Kui Hejin and said softly and cutely, "But the noodles are delicious, and I'm hungry too." Kui Hejin felt distressed again. "Have you not eaten for a long time?" Zhang Ziluo blinked her big eyes, nodded, and said in a very well-behaved manner, "Yeah." If it's not enough, I'll order some more, or make some dishes. Kui Hejin looked distressed, fearing that she was really hungry. Zhang Ziluo waved her hands and said, "No, no, there's already a lot of these. You'll be full after eating these." Indeed, Kui Hejin made the noodles according to Zhang Ziluo's previous meal size to ensure that she could eat enough. So after eating such a big bowl, Zhang Ziluo will definitely be full. After Zhang Ziluo finished eating, she looked at the sun that had risen outside and thought that she might want to go back and talk about it. Otherwise, if Yun Loxiao knew where she had gone, he would probably send people all over the city to look for her. There are not many troops left in Zhongchen now. It would really not be a good idea to send them out to look for her again. She doesn't want to cause trouble to her grandson yet. After the table was cleared, Zhang Ziluo and Kui Hejin sat at the desk and talked. Zhang Ziluo said softly, "Well, I didn't mean to leave without saying goodbye. My status is special, and I don't want to inconvenience you." Kui Hejin said softly, "Yeah." Zhang Ziluo couldn't guess whether he minded or not. Looking at his peaceful expression, for some reason, she felt guilty in her heart. Kui Hejin sighed softly, "You are my wife. If you don't get involved, I'm afraid I won't be able to help you." Zhang Ziluo explained anxiously, "No, I'm afraid you will get hurt." Kui Hejin looked deeply at Zhang Ziluo. "Ziluo, since you are like this, I am also like this." He was also afraid that she would get hurt. Zhang Ziluo looked at Kui Hejin at this time, as if she understood something. Her eyelashes trembled, she hesitated, and then whispered, "I have recovered some memories of my childhood. I am from the Wei family, and I am Wei King Gluo. You grew up in the capital, you should know about the Wei family." Kui Hejin raised his eyebrows, showing that this was indeed the case. There were speculations in her mind, but when she really heard about her identity, Kui Hejin still stirred up a storm in her heart. We were both in the capital back then, and although he had never met her at that time, he had heard about the snowy and clever sixth girl of the Wei family many times. The secret guard at home has investigated some information. Several dangers faced by the Wei family were easily resolved in advance by the sixth girl. At the time, he found it incredible after hearing this, and was actually a little curious about her. It's just that I've never had the chance to see it. Unexpectedly, she is right in front of him now, and she is his wife. Kui Hejin felt a sense of honor in her heart. No wonder, when he was in town, Zhang Ziluo helped him resolve danger several times. Although she didn't say it, he could feel that she had a secret at that time. Kui Hejin nodded and said, "I know the Wei family, and I also know the 6 girls of the Wei family." He probably would not have thought at that time that he would later marry the 6th girl. At that time, several young boys who were classmates in the Imperial College were quite interested in her. Even though no one had seen her at that time. I guess the elders in the family often mention it. If his mother knew Ziluo's identity, she would be extremely happy. When his mother was the wife of the Duke of Guo, she once mentioned, "There is such an snow and smart girl in the Wei family. Everyone is very optimistic about this girl." At that time, the confidant of my mother's side, the nun, suggested, "Since Madame likes the 6th girl of the Wei family so much, why don't you make a choice for the heir apparent?" End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 322. Chapter 322 Do You Mind? Second update. The confidant grandma probably knew what my mother was thinking, so she made such a suggestion. At that time, he happened to come over to find his mother and overheard such a conversation. He was no stranger to the 6th girl of the Wei family at that time. He was 8 years old at that time, and Wei King Gluo was 5 years old at that time. Just listen to my mother sigh. At that time, the Duke's wife said with some regret, "With the power of the Kui family and the power of the Wei family, The emperor is already very suspicious. How could he allow the two families to marry? You didn't see it? I tried my best not to attend the Wei family's banquet. Mrs. Wei didn't invite us either. Once a family of military generals gets married, it means the merger of military power. Can the emperor be at ease? Furthermore, the crown princess also likes the sixth girl very much. Maybe the crown princess also has some ideas. At that time, when he was young, he became silent after hearing this. Hearing what Kui Hejin said at this time, Zhang Ziluo was surprised and said, "Have you heard of me? But I don't remember much about some of my childhood memories, so I don't know if I heard of you when I was young." Kui Hejin said softly, "These are not important, and your identity is not important either. I only know that you are my wife." "Ziluo, I'm very happy that you are willing to tell me this." Zhang Ziluo looked at Kui Hejin's calm expression and whispered, "You should know what the Wei family means. Back then, someone set up such a trap to kill the Wei family. It can be seen that there is danger behind it. I originally thought not to involve you. Who would have thought? Ziluo, if something happens to you, what should I do? How can I let you face this alone?" Kui Hejin couldn't imagine what she would do if something happened to her. "I can't even think about it, my heart hurts so much." Zhang Ziluo now understands that she thinks she is good to Kui Hejin, but that may not be the case. He will definitely do something for her secretly. It is a lie to say that I am not moved. In the past, he didn't talk much, and his emotions were reserved, making it hard for people to tell. But now, she realized that she might have ignored his feelings. At this moment, she could feel that he cared about her. This made Zhang Ziluo feel an indescribable feeling in her heart. A little sour and a little sweet. Zhang Ziluo pursed her lips and said, "I still want to find the Wei family. I don't believe the news I heard back then. I thought maybe they are still alive. My eldest brother should still be alive. I will go to southern Xinjiang to find my eldest brother. This trip is very dangerous. I don't want you to be in danger." Kui Hejin sighed, stood up and took out a piece of paper from the table next to him. "This is the news I just learned, and it is related to your eldest brother." Zhang Ziluo was shocked when she saw the content on the note. "I had planned to go there myself." "You?" Zhang Ziluo couldn't believe it. "But then I thought about it, and she said she didn't want to involve him, but in fact he had already done a lot silently. He helped her find out the previous affairs of the Cai family in advance, including the Cai family's elixir book, the map of the Cai family's house, the distribution of secret guards, and where the money and food were kept. It's just that she didn't know that he was Kui Hejin at that time. It is conceivable that even if she does not reveal her identity, he probably knows what she is going to do. He should also be able to guess her identity. He even planned to go to southern Xinjiang himself. Moreover, even Taizhun's people had not found out some important information about southern Xinjiang, yet he was able to find out." Zhang Ziluo was surprised. So she discovered that she actually didn't know Kui Hejin at all. Zhang Ziluo is not a pretentious person. After understanding a lot, she said, "Husband, can you go with me?" Zhang Ziluo used a coquettish way. Because she couldn't let Kui Hejin go to southern Xinjiang alone. If Kui Hejin had any physical problems along the way, she would also go crazy. For her to come into this world, the most important thing to her is Kui Hejin. Zhang Ziluo gently reached out and grabbed Kui Hejin's sleeve, shaking it coquettishly. Kui Hejin is funny and helpless. There is a feeling that there is nothing that can be done to her. With her like this, he wanted to pick out the stars in the sky for her. Kui Hejin said warmly, "Okay. I knew you were the best husband." Kui Hejin said helplessly, "Will you still leave without saying goodbye and act alone in the future?" She had no idea how worried he was. At that moment, my heart felt half empty. Zhang Ziluo shook her head and said, "No, no. She realized that Kui Hejin would still mind this. But it's true that she did something wrong. I'm sorry about that. Kui Hejin said softly, fool, I don't want to be sorry. Zhang Ziluo blinked her eyes, thought for a while, then stepped forward and kissed Kui Hejin gently on the cheek. At this moment, Kui Hejin's eyes changed instantly. It seems to have suddenly turned into a deep pool of ink, bewildering and fascinating. Husband. Zhang Ziluo swallowed. Just for a moment, Kui Hejin turned his eyes away and his throat rolled, as if he was trying his best to restrain something. After a while, Kui Hejin said hoarsely, I'm tired, let's take a rest first. Zhang Ziluo said, I want to go back first, settle down Qiao Mengmeng, and tell brother Taijun, oh, His Highness Taijun that I have to go out, lest he sends troops to look for me. Kui Hejin tapped the table with his finger, are you familiar with His Highness Taijun? I'm not very familiar with him, I just feel that he will be a good emperor. The main reason is that I am grateful to him for saving Mengmeng and always taking care of Mengmeng. She is my eldest brother's daughter. And we have the same goal. He also wants to find the Wei family and rehabilitate the Wei family. Zhang Ziluo looked at Kui Hejin's expression and suddenly realized something, are you jealous? Zhang Ziluo thought to herself that he might not understand if she said she was jealous. Do you mind paying attention to this? Zhang Ziluo just wanted to see Kui Hejin's reaction. He usually looked calm, but she couldn't see any changes in his mood. Kui Hejin had no choice but to reach out and gently pull her, and she sat in his arms. Looking at her chattering, Kui Hejin lowered his head and caressed her eyebrows. Zhang Ziluo's heart trembled so hard that she forgot to breathe and react. Kui Hejin put one hand around her waist and covered her eyes with the other. Then the lips fell. At first I just tasted it lightly. The self-control that I am proud of almost collapsed. Zhang Ziluo's mouth was a little dry, and her lips and tongue moved slightly, as if she was responding to something. Like a stick of firewood that ignites instantly. His eyes darkened fiercely, and he hugged her tighter, swallowing her breath gently. Zhang Ziluo's body went limp and she was trembling violently in his arms. She could not help but respond to him awkwardly. Her response was like the best honey. Zhang Ziluo didn't expect that Kui Hejin, who looked as gentle as jade, could be so domineering at times. He hugged her so tightly. But she likes how domineering he is to her. It can make her truly feel that he cares about her. Instead of relying on guessing his thoughts before. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Space Doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Feng Yuan Candy. Chapter 323. Chapter 323, Employing People Without Suspicion, First Update. Even so, Kui Hejin actually treated her gently and restrainedly. Zhang Ziluo's face turned red. His body is even softer. After a long time, Kui Hejin let her go slightly. Zhang Ziluo fell into Kui Hejin's arms, panting violently. Kui Hejin gently stroked her back and helped her calm her breathing. There was a dark and captivating aura in his eyes. Even at this moment, he wished he could rub the person in his arms deep into his heart and look at her all the time, which was better than always worrying about her getting hurt. I'm always worried that she doesn't know what dangerous things she has done. Zhang Ziluo leaned in Kui Hejin's arms, listening to his powerful heartbeat, and couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth slightly. It turns out that he also has such a side, not the usual cold and indifferent look, nor the gentle and jade-like look, but strong and domineering. You can't really see it on weekdays, and it's hard to imagine. Kui Hejin held her in his arms and gently rubbed her hair. After a while, Zhang Ziluo whispered, I want to drink water. Kui Hejin then sat her down on the edge of the bed and poured her water. Make sure the water temperature is just right. Zhang Ziluo was really thirsty at this time, so she drank the entire glass of water. At this time, her ice-skinned and jade-like cheeks were still flushed, just like the morning glow. The eyebrows are beautiful, bright, and enchanting, and even the lips are as delicate as blood just now. When he looked up at Kui Hejin, he was extremely embarrassed and looked drunk and shy. Kui Hejin's eyes darkened again. Her appearance made him want to hide her. After drinking the water, Zhang Ziluo calmed down her heartbeat and whispered, "I should go back now." Zhang Ziluo actually looked at Kui Hejin with a look of reluctance. "Wait a moment." Zhang Ziluo blinked and looked at Kui Hejin in confusion. Kui Hejin stretched out his hand to tidy up her scattered hair. Movements are gentle and focused. Zhang Ziluo felt a little dazed when she looked at his expression as beautiful as an ink painting. After arranging Zhang Ziluo's hair, Kui Hejin said, "Okay. I'll take you back." Zhang Ziluo nodded. Kui Hejin changed into purple-black clothes, giving her a more noble and mysterious feeling. While walking on the road, Zhang Ziluo seemed to have thought of something and said, "I will pack up in the next few days and then go to southern Xinjiang." Kui Hejin said warmly, "Okay." Kui Hejin naturally accompanied Zhang Ziluo. Zhang Ziluo understood what Kui Hejin meant and said, "I'll go find you in a few days." Kui Hejin said, "I'll pick you up." "Good." Zhang Ziluo looked at Kui Hejin reluctantly, waved to him, and then entered the house. Zhang Ziluo did not see Jiao Mengmeng. On the contrary, when Nanny Lin saw Zhang Ziluo, she hurriedly came up to her and said, "Miss Cousin, are you not sleeping in the house?" Mama Lin thought Zhang Ziluo was sleeping. Zhang Ziluo said, "I just happened to have something to do." "Where's Meng Meng?" "Miss Jiao was sent to the academy early in the morning." "I see that you are not awake, Miss Jiao, so she did not disturb you." Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, "Well, there's not many people in the house. His Highness the grandson is out." Mama Lin looked around and whispered, "Something big happened last night. Your Highness the grandson went out before dawn. There must be something urgent, right?" Zhang Ziluo said, "Mother Lin, you have a wide range of sources of information. Do you know what major events happened?" Mama Lin looked at Miss Cousin and felt shocked. Mother Lin whispered, "I heard that a general in the enemy's camp died. Although they blocked the news, I heard it was true. Everyone is very happy after hearing the news. Those soldiers will not attack the city again. Everyone wants to live under the rule of Taijun, but they don't want to be controlled by the southern emperor. Nanhuang is not a wise king." Zhang Ziluo nodded. It seemed that Yun Loxiao also knew that Gong Sun-Wu was dead. "No one knows who killed him. Even if we knew she was the one who killed him, we couldn't find any evidence. It doesn't matter even if you are suspected." Zhang Ziluo originally wanted to give the script she wrote to the storyteller so that he could clarify everything for the Wei family. But now is not the time. Zhang Ziluo knew that Yun Loxiao had to deal with these matters and wouldn't be able to come back for a while. She bought some medicinal materials and prepared some medicine, planning to take it with her when she went to southern Xinjiang. Yun Loxiao came back in the evening and wanted to see Zhang Ziluo. Two people met in the study. Yun Loxiao looked at Zhang Ziluo and hesitated to speak. Zhang Ziluo said, "Ask whatever you want to ask." Yun Loxiao pinched her eyebrows and said softly, "Did you kill Gong Sun-Wu?" Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, "I killed him." After a pause, Zhang Ziluo said seriously, "Are you afraid of me?" Normal superiors would also be afraid of her. Afraid of being killed by her. Hearing these words, Yun Loxiao frowned and said, "Where are you thinking? It's just that you are taking risks like this. What will you do if you get injured or have an accident? At least tell me when you are doing something, and I can send someone to help you." Hearing Yun Loxiao's words, Zhang Ziluo slowly breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, She was really afraid of supporting a king who would be afraid of the Wei family. But fortunately, Yun Loxiao is not that kind of person. Just like his father, the prince, he does not doubt the people he employs and does not use those he doubts. Yun Loxiao dares to trust her subordinates. Moreover, even when he deals with someone, he always gets the evidence before dealing with him. He has a good reputation and always speaks evidence when doing things. He never uses any crooked methods. This is also the reason why Zhang Ziluo trusts Yun Loxiao. Zhang Ziluo said, "If I told you that I was going to kill Gong Sunwu in the middle of the night, you would stop me." Yun Loxiao was silent for a moment. That is indeed the case. Gong Sunwu is protected by experts. Are you really not injured? Zhang Ziluo said, "Maybe Gong Sunwu offended a lot of people, and someone happened to want to kill her, so when the masters were dueling, I took the opportunity to escape." Yun Loxiao naturally did not doubt Zhang Ziluo's words. "That's good." Zhang Ziluo seemed to have thought of something and said, "The Chinese New Year is coming soon. I plan to go home and take a look in a few days. I won't be in Zhangzhou for the time being. I'll ask you to take care of Meng Meng." Although Yun Loxiao was slightly disappointed after hearing these words. But Yun Loxiao also knew that Zhang Ziluo was free. We also know that Zhang Ziluo is now married to Kui Hejin, the former eldest son of Kui Qiagong. He was also one of the most talented people in the capital. "Don't worry, Meng Meng, I will take good care of you." Zhang Ziluo took out some more bottles and jars. "These are some medicines I prepared during this period. They all have usage and instructions. You should also take care of yourself and pay attention to safety." Zhang Ziluo didn't tell Yun Loxiao where she really wanted to go. Yun Loxiao knew Zhang Ziluo's medical skills, so she naturally knew that these medicines were more effective than those used in the uterus. His heart was slightly touched. "There are many things I wanted to tell you, but I never said them out. Such something happened to the Wei family when they were young, and the trajectory of him and her also changed. Nowadays, even if you have some concerns, it is not appropriate to express them." End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 324. Chapter 324 Field, Second Update. Yun Loxiao also understood that Zhang Ziluo's arrival actually helped her a lot. He also helped him solve a serious problem, Gong Sunwu. Without Gong Sunwu, Nanhuang would have lost an arm. Yun Loxiao can handle everything here now. In the next 2 days, in addition to accompanying Jiao Mengmeng, Zhang Ziluo packed things and prepared some medicinal materials. Moreover, Zhang Ziluo also wrote letters and bought some things to send to Donghe village and Xinshan village. The weather is getting colder, and the new year will soon be here. At the time of the new year, both Mrs. Kui Kinkai and her parents, brothers, and sisters in Xinshan village have to buy a lot of things. Although they have many kinds of things there, they don't have some specialties here in Zhangzhou. Even if they are for sale, some things are expensive. So Zhang Ziluo bought some things. Of course, the money in Zhang Ziluo's hands was also earned here. She also bought some fabrics from Zhangzhou. Those fabrics are very beautiful. It would look great if family members used them to make clothes. Before setting off, Zhang Ziluo also went to Honglan village to visit Grandma Song and her family. By the time Zhang Ziluo left, Grandma Song was almost in good health. She occasionally coughed, but it didn't affect her work and she had gained strength. Mother Song and her family were very happy to see Zhang Ziluo. "See Miss." Everyone quickly saluted Zhang Ziluo. Zhang Ziluo hurriedly helped them up and said, "Ms. Song, Uncle Song, you don't need to be polite. I am not a Miss Wei now." Aunt Song said seriously, "To us, Miss, you are still a distinguished master. Even though the Wei family no longer exists, the Wei family exists in their hearts. They will never forget Miss kindness to them." Zhang Ziluo did not bother with Nanny Song about these matters. Instead, she looked at her and said, "Aunt Song, are you feeling better?" Aunt Song looked at Zhang Ziluo gratefully and said, "It's much better now. Thanks to the food you brought me, miss, I feel much better after eating it." Nanny Song and her family did not expect that she would recover so quickly. Zhang Ziluo also brought some meat, snacks, and sugar when she came this time. Mother Song and the others were simply flattered. "Miss, we are very happy that you can come. You don't need to bring so many things. It is no longer what it used to be." They think that the young lady must be working very hard, so how can they be willing to ask for the things she brought? Looking at the young lady wearing simple clothes, they felt a little distressed. I think back then, the young lady's clothes and hair accessories were extremely exquisite. The old lady and the third lady all tried their best to give good things to the young lady. She is the favorite of the entire Wei family. Even if the sons of the Wei family go out and see anything interesting, they will bring it back to Miss Sixth. It can be said that in the entire capital, their daughter is the only girl who is favored by the entire family. Girls from many families in the capital are envious of the young lady. Of course, it's also because their ladies are good and deserve to be treated well. Even they thought the lady was very nice and never treated them like human beings. Zhang Ziluo said, "Just take it if I give it to you. It doesn't cost much money. These snacks are made by me, you can have a taste. These candies are for Zuzu to eat." Zhang Ziluo knew that Qiuzu and Songbin's daughter was called Zuzu. Looking at the well-behaved little girl, Zhang Ziluo smiled. Mother Song hurriedly and enthusiastically asked Zhang Ziluo to come in and sit down. "Miss, please don't leave at noon this time. You must stay for dinner, otherwise we will feel really sorry. Last time, the lady could say that I was not in good health and was afraid of trouble. Now that I am in good health, I can do it for the lady. It's time to eat. I remember when I was a kid, my ladies loved eating the wontons I made. Grandma Song is very good at making wontons, and the wontons she makes are also delicious." Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, "Okay, then I won't refuse this time." Song Zhend also went into the house to help Sister Song. Mama Song's family is very harmonious. Everyone helps out if anything happens. Songbin is going to take Zuzu to the mountains to pick mushrooms. Qiuzu stayed with Zhang Ziluo at home. Zhang Ziluo seemed to have thought of something and said, "Qiuzu, I also want to go to your mountain to take a look. Let's get them all together." "Ah, miss, why don't you sit at home and rest for a while? I'm very tired from going to the mountains." "It's okay, I just happened to go take a look to see if there is any fresh food." Zhang Ziluo didn't know when she would come back from her trip to southern Xinjiang this time. She originally planned to make a good settlement for Aunt Song and her family. She has also thought about opening a store here in Zhangzhou. After opening the store, she can leave it to Aunt Song and the others to take care of it, and she feels relieved. At that time, Grandma Song's family will also be able to receive wages and bonuses and have enough to eat. Not so poor. Even though she only came twice, Zhang Ziluo could tell that Grandma Song's family lived in poverty. The clothes they wore were all patched, and even Zuzu looked very thin. At first glance, he looked malnourished. So Zhang Ziluo was thinking about how to make some income for Aunt Song and her family, so that they could at least have enough to eat. Originally, she wanted to teach braised pigs how to swim. Pig offal is cheap and low cost, and it can be sold as long as it is ready. But she found that some people were selling braised pig offal in the Zhangzhou market, and the takeout price of pig offal in the market was not low. So she decided to think of a way to make food at zero cost. Qiuzu said, "The mountains here are not big. We usually come to the mountains to pick some wild vegetables and fruits to eat. There are very few wild fruits, and most of them are wild vegetables. But after it rains, there are a lot of mushrooms on the mountain. You can go back and make soup." While walking up the mountain, I also passed a field, most of which were planted with vegetables. Qiuzu saw Zhang Zhiluo looking over there and explained, that is the villagers' fields, which are all divided. In the spring, everyone grows rice, corn, peanuts, and other crops. After harvesting the food, they will plant some vegetables. In the winter the only vegetables are radishes, cabbage, and mustard greens. With a can of mustard greens, Zhang Zhiluo can teach Sister Song and the others how to pickle sauerkraut. However, if you pickle sauerkraut, it should be used with cooking. They may not be able to sell it immediately after pickling it, but it will make it easier for them to eat. And many people use mustard lumps to make pickles. So Zhang Zhiluo thought about it and still thought it was not advisable. And I don't know if people here are used to eating sauerkraut. Is there a field over there? Zhang Zhiluo pointed to the land at the foot of the mountain with her finger. Qiuzu explained, that piece of land was originally a wasteland, covered with weeds. The villagers thought about the notices posted by His Highness Taijun. Every family is working hard to open up wasteland, and a lot of wasteland has been cleared away. Zhang Zhiluo suddenly realized, no wonder these didn't look like fields, but they were well kept. It seems that it is good for Yun Loxiao to formulate such a decree, which can open up wasteland into fields. The fields that we open up are also our own land. After entering the mountain, Zhang Zhiluo also found some mushrooms. She was just about to pick them when Qiuzu stopped her and said, "Miss, these mushrooms are poisonous and cannot be eaten." This is the experience gained by the villagers. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 325. Chapter 325 Fairy Tofu, 3 updates. Qiuzu was afraid that Zhang Zhiluo would pick it, so she quickly held Zhang Zhiluo's hand. Zhang Zhiluo looked at Qiuzu's nervous look and said with a smile, "Qiuzu, these are not poisonous, these mushrooms are edible." Ah! Qiuzu looked at Zhang Zhiluo with an expression of surprise and disbelief. But someone in the village died after eating this. Zhiluo Zhang explained patiently, some mushrooms are poisonous and some are not. I will teach you how to identify them. You can look at it in many ways. Look at the appearance. If the mushroom has scales and mucus, and there are fungi or rings on the stem, it is poisonous and cannot be eaten. The ones over there are poisonous mushrooms. The next step is to look at the secretion and color. There is also the growing environment. Generally, non-toxic mushrooms grow in clean grassland or on pine and oak trees, while poisonous mushrooms often grow in dark, moist, and dirty places. You can also use green onions for field testing. Qiuzu's expression changed and he said, "Miss, wait a minute, I'll pull out a green onion." As he spoke, Qiuzu went to the ground and pulled out a green onion, and then used the green onion to identify it. If you rub it with onions, if it turns green and brown, it is poisonous. If it turns green and brown, it is poisonous. If it turns green, it is not poisonous. Zhang Zhiluo also said to Qiuzu, "If you really can't identify it, I will teach you how to identify several edible mushrooms first. From now on, you can just pick those mushrooms when you come to the mountain. You don't need to pick the other ones you don't know." Qiuzu nodded and said, "Okay." Zhang Zhiluo took the green bamboo to pick some good mushrooms. Fortunately, Qiuzu brought a basket and put all the mushrooms in the basket. Just when picking mushrooms, Zhang Zhiluo suddenly discovered fairy leaves. Fairy leaves? Seeing the leaves on the tree, Zhang Zhiluo couldn't believe it, and her eyes lit up. Qiuzu was a little confused. "Miss, isn't this a turtle dove leaf? There are many such leaves on the mountain, but they are of no use." Zhang Zhiluo looked at so many fairy trees and fairy leaves, turned to look at the green bamboo and said, "Don't you all pick them? The mountain is covered in such a large area. If you don't pick it, it's of no use. There are too many leaves on the trees on the mountain. It would be great if I could eat it, but I can't eat it either." Qiuzu sighed a little. Zhang Zhiluo looked at the many fairy leaves and thought, no wonder there were so many, no one picked them. Zhang Zhiluo's eyes lit up, now she would have a way to teach Aunt Song and her family how to make food. There is no cost to make this kind of food. Zhang Zhiluo said, Kuizu, ask Songbin to come over and help pick these fairy leaves, but don't let the villagers find out. I will teach you how to make a delicacy when you get back. Kuizu was stunned for a moment, not knowing what kind of delicacy the lady said she was going to make. But this did not prevent her from believing what the lady said. Miss has been so smart since she was a child, and what she said must be right. So there's no need to ask anything, just listen to the lady. So Kuizu called Songbin over. They all brought baskets and started picking the leaves. Even their daughter Zuzu helped pick little by little. Looking at the little girl being so obedient, Zhang Zhiluo felt that Zuzu had been well educated by Kuizu and Songbin. Soon the basket was full. Miss, it's all filled. Do you still need to go home to get the backpack and continue filling it? Zhang Zhiluo said, push these leaves into the basket as hard as you can. Once they are compacted, you can put more in them. So Kuizu and Songbin obeyed and pressed the leaves hard. When the baskets were pressed firmly, they packed a lot. There was no one on the way back. The main reason is that the weather is cold, there is not much work in the fields, and most people in the village stay at home. But there are also people who are clearing the land. But it can only be planted in spring, so there is no rush to open up wasteland. When we got home, Aunt Song had already wrapped the wontons. The lady is back, we can serve the wontons right away. Song Jend has already chopped some firewood. Say cook wontons and you can cook the wontons right away. Mom, the young lady picked some leaves for us and said they can be made delicious. As soon as she heard this, Grandma Song's eyes lit up. Miss said that if you make delicious food, you will definitely be able to make delicious food. Miss was always tinkering with new things and food when she was a child. The food made by Miss must be delicious. Mother Song has no doubts. It's just that Aunt Song felt that the young lady came to their house and still worked, which made her feel uncomfortable. Miss, we are already very excited and happy that you are here, how can we keep you busy? Zhang Zhiluo said, it's okay. I happened to come across this kind of leaf and I can make something. Kuizu said, Miss, if you need to do these things, I will do it. You don't have to do it yourself. Zhang Zhiluo did not insist and said, wash these leaves first. Is there any plant ash? Songbin said, there are dry grass and trees. Zhang Zhiluo said, then burn some plant ashes and keep them for later. Good. In this way, the green bamboo leaves are washed, and the ashes of burned vegetation are sent away. Zhang Zhiluo watched the green bamboo cleaning leaves, and felt that there were too many leaves, so washing was a bit slow. It's too much to eat even if you cook so much at once. Zhang Zhiluo said, Kuizu, just wash a basin first and leave the leaves. You can make them now when you know the method. Good. The green bamboo was washed in a basin. Miss, what are you going to do next? Want to steam it? Zhang Zhiluo shook her head and said, no, put the washed leaves in the basin and then add the mountain spring water. Songbin hurriedly went to scoop water from the vat. These are mountain spring water, wells dug at the foot of the mountain, close to the mountain spring. Well, that's good, then rub these leaves vigorously, just like rubbing clothes. Zhang Zhiluo was worried that Kuizu had no strength, so she planned to help Kuizu. How could Kuizu have the nerve to let the young lady do the work herself? She hurriedly said, Miss, we have eaten well these days and have gained strength. Thanks to the pig's trotters that the lady gave us earlier, we used them to stew the soup. The soup is delicious. We also ate the eggs that the lady gave us. Zhang Zhiluo smiled and said, that's good. At least they listened to her and ate the food she brought. Eat well and keep up with your nutrition, only then will you have the strength to do things, and with good nutrition, you will not get sick easily, So try to eat as much as possible. Qiuzu nodded. After I teach you how to make this kind of food, you can make it and sell it in the market. It doesn't cost much anyway, it's good to make a little more. Qiuzu and the others were extremely moved when they heard this. Ms. is still thinking about them. Think about them. In the house, Songjend was lighting the fire, while Aunt Song was looking at the pot, waiting for it to boil before putting down the wontons. Qiuzu rubbed the leaves vigorously and soon they were done. Zhang Ziluo asked, I have gauze at home, or a cleaner coarse cloth will do. Upon hearing this, Songbin hurriedly said, yes, I will go into the house to get it. They use that kind of cloth to cover their waodu at home. Zhang Ziluo explained to Qiuzu, knead it like this, and then filter it with a cloth. An additional chapter has been added. Today I updated 3 chapters with 6,000 words. Please give me a monthly vote for your support. I will try my best to update as much as possible. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Space Doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 326. Chapter 326 Simple Method, First Update. Zhang Ziluo said that no one understands filtering. Zhang Ziluo took matters into her own hands, took a clean basin, put clean gauze on it, and then poured the needed fairy leaves onto the clean gauze. While busy, Zhang Ziluo explained, this is filtration. The ash water from vegetation should also be filtered. Seeing Zhang Ziluo operate like this, Songbin also understood what filtration is. He then found a small basin and a piece of clean gauze, poured the plant ash water into it, and filtered it. Songbin looked at the filtered vegetation ash water and asked, Miss, is this vegetation ash water enough? Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, well, these vegetation and grey water are enough. Gang Ziluo has also filtered the water used to rub the green leaves. Qiuzu and Zuzu were watching curiously. Qiuzu couldn't even imagine what these leaves and water could do. But she believed in the young lady. In her heart, whatever her young lady said was right. Miss, what are you going to do next? Zhang Ziluo said, bring a clean spoon over here. Good. Qiuzu hurried back to the kitchen house to get a clean spoon. Zhang Ziluo poured the filtered plant ash water into the filtered green leaf water and stirred it with a spoon. After mixing evenly, Zhang Ziluo said, that's it? Leave it aside for an hour and it'll be almost ready. Is this good? Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, well, let it sit for a while. It's green tofu, also called fairy tofu. You can eat it after cutting it. Qiuzu and Songbin both looked incredulous. Is there even green tofu? The tofu sold in the town is not cheap either, costing 10 cents per caddy. Generally speaking, if ordinary people want to buy tofu, they only buy a small piece or half a caddy. But they also know that tofu is made from soybeans, and ordinary people don't know how to make it. Since it is made from grain, the price will naturally not be too cheap. But their green tofu didn't use anything at home. There are many such leaves on the mountains. There are many such leaves on the mountains in nearby villages. There are also plant ashes, not to mention, they usually use plant ashes to burn fires. This is even more inconspicuous. So it doesn't cost anything to make this green tofu. You can make it by going to the mountains to pick leaves and burn some plant ashes. It looks pretty good. The green look makes people appetizing. I just don't know how it tastes. Although they didn't know how it tasted yet, they were already shocked. Zuzu all blinked her big eyes and said, it looks good. Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, after an hour, you can cut it and taste it. Speaking, Zhang Ziluo looked at Qiuzu and said, you know how to do it, right? Qiuzu recovered from the shock, nodded vigorously and said, I know, I know. If it tastes good, you and Grandma Song can make this kind of magical tofu and sell it in the future. This doesn't need to be made fresh, it can be sold like tofu, cut into pieces and sold. You can also use some seasonings, make a dish, and let everyone taste how it tastes for free, so that if everyone eats delicious food, they will buy these fairy tofu. You must not tell others what you use to make tofu, just say it is tofu made with ancient secret recipes. The weather is cold now. In winter, there are few types of fresh vegetables. Everyone should like to eat this kind of fresh food. Especially eating some greasy food, and then eating a plate of cool tofu dishes will relieve your tiredness. Zhang Ziluo told Qiuzu and Songbin this in detail, and both of them were stunned for a while. After listening, he looked at Zhang Ziluo with even more admiration. They could not have imagined the details of such a method. It turns out that setting up a stall also requires attention to methods. Same, even if they look at the tofu of that color, they will feel very appetizing. Even though I haven't eaten it yet, I think it should taste good. At this time, Aunt Song had already cooked the wontons. Miss, the wontons are cooked, come in and eat the wontons. Mr. Song finished it, scooped out a bowl and put it on the table, ready to serve Zhang Ziluo to eat. None of them came to the table. Zhang Ziluo said, Aunt Song, let's all eat together. There are no rules now, so just have a good meal. Looking at Zhang Ziluo's expression, Sister Song nodded, and then everyone went to the table to eat together. Zhang Ziluo was eating wontons and couldn't help but think of her time in the Wei mansion when she was a child. The wontons made by Grandma Song still taste the same as when I was a child, they are delicious. If the lady likes to eat, I will often cook it for her. Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, I'm going on a long trip to do something. When they heard that Zhang Ziluo was going out to do errands, everyone's expressions changed. Qiuzu asked in a low voice, is the lady in danger? I will go with the lady. Zhang Ziluo shook her head and said, it's okay. I just went to pick some medicinal materials. There is no danger. Zhang Ziluo naturally would not tell them that she was going to southern Xinjiang. To ordinary people, southern Xinjiang is an extremely mysterious and dangerous place. Ordinary people would not even dare to go there. There are many legends about southern Xinjiang. In order not to worry them, she didn't say much. But everyone also understands that they should not interfere too much with the master's affairs. Whatever the lady needs, we can help you prepare it. Just tell me. Zhang Ziluo felt warm in her heart, shook her head and said, no, you take care of yourselves. When I come back to do business, I will need your help. Don't worry about using your own people. Yes, yes. They are looking forward to returning to their master to work. After having a full meal, Zhang Ziluo chatted with Sister Song and the others. Mrs. Song seemed to have thought of something, so she went to the back room and brought out some hawthorns. I remember that Miss liked to eat candied haws when she was a child. Unfortunately, we don't know how to cook it. However, we planted some hawthorn trees on the mountain and a lot of hawthorns will grow. These have been washed, miss, you can take them with you when you go back. Zhang Ziluo was stunned when she saw so many hawthorns. She seemed to have thought of something. Her eyes lit up and she said, Aunt Song, are there a lot of hawthorns growing on your mountain? Sister Song explained, there is a piece of land at a high place, and there are several hawthorn trees growing on the hillside. They produce a lot of hawthorn fruits every year, and we eat them as snacks. But they are all sour. Zhang Ziluo thought thoughtfully, with these hawthorns, we can set up a stall and sell them. Aunt Song shook her head and said, it's not that easy. There are a lot of hawthorns here. It's okay if you can make candied haws. You can make some candied haws for sale. If you don't know how to do it, just leave it at home. If you set up a stall to buy hawthorn, it's very cheap. Not many people buy it. The main thing is that there are too many things. Zhang Ziluo thought of something when she heard Sister Song's words. It can be made with hawthorn. Just a little sugar is enough. Last time Mrs. Kui sent her something, she also sent some brown sugar. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 327. Chapter 327 Warmth and Harmony, Second Update. Thinking of this, Zhang Ziluo said with a smile on her face, "Aunt Song, I will teach you how to make another kind of food. With this kind of food, you can also earn some money to support your family." When Aunt Song heard this, she didn't know what to say. "Miss, you should take more care of yourself. You don't have to think about us all the time. We can take care of ourselves. Miss, you are traveling far away and there is no one around to take care of you." Aunt Song actually wanted to stay with Zhang Ziluo. But she also knew that the young lady had been an extremely independent person since she was a child, and she had already made up her mind about what she wanted to do. She can't cause trouble either. They wanted to do something for the young lady, but they never expected that the young lady has always been thinking about them and taking care of them. Mother Song and the others' noses were a little sour after being moved. Such a good lady, such a good Wei family, the late emperor actually wants to harm the Wei family, it is simply too hateful. Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, "It's okay. You guys are doing well. I can feel relieved as well." They were all former Wei family members, and Zhang Ziluo felt very friendly looking at them. In the past, Aunt Song, Songjent, and the others were the sons of the Wei family and were very loyal to the Wei family. They even did a lot of things for the Wei family. Just this loyalty is good. Perhaps when the eldest brother or other relatives come back, they will be happy to see the old man who used to be in the Wei mansion. In this way, I will teach you how to make Kuidan Pi, a kind of fruit snack. I don't think it is sold on the market. Maybe you can do a good business by setting up a stall. Indeed, Zhang Ziluo has never seen any fruit peel snacks sold in Zhangzhou. They are all candied haws and some different kinds of candies. The peel made from hawthorn is sweet and sour, and even ginger grass likes to eat it. Speaking of fruit bark, Sister Song and the others don't even know what it is. But this does not affect everyone's belief in Zhang Ziluo. Mother Song felt that just looking at her young lady like this made her very happy. Let alone cooking food with her lady. Sister Song said, "Miss, we all listen to you." Zhang Ziluo said, "Let's find a knife to remove the cores of these hawthorns first." As soon as Zhang Ziluo said this, Sister Song and the others hurried to get the things. They went into the house and worked together around the table. Zhang Ziluo teaches everyone to cut the hawthorn in the middle, then dig out the core of the hawthorn inside, and then gently dig out the head and tail. This way the hawthorn will be clean. Let's deal with these hawthorns together. Hawthorns have been cleaned in advance, which saves the first step. Mother Song said, "There are also hawthorns on the mountain." They did not pick it back completely. Zhang Ziluo took off the hawthorn core and said, "Don't worry, I'll wait until you know how to do it, then go pick the hawthorn and come back to do it. The main thing is that you can make the fruit peel yourself once you learn how to do it. It is better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish." Zhang Ziluo thinks the sentence is very reasonable. Even Song Zuzu wanted to help, but she was too young and they didn't let her use the knife and only let her watch from the side. After finishing a large pot of hawthorn, Zhang Ziluo said, "That's it. Put these processed hawthorns in the pot, add 1/3 of the water and start boiling." Song Zheng happened to chop a lot of firewood, took the firewood into the stove house and started to light the fire. Mother Song put the hawthorns in the pot and poured water. They are responsible for cooking. Once it's cooked, it's best to use something to beat the soft hawthorn into a puree. Kuizu asked in confusion, "Miss, do you need a stone mill?" "The stone mill is at the mill in the village." "Yes, there is a special mill in their village. If everyone wants to use it, they can just go to the mill to grind it. Zhang Ziluo touched her chin and said, "Is there a wooden mortar or a stone mortar?" Songbin quickly said, "Yes, there is a stone mortar." As he said that, he went to move the stone mortar that was upside down in the corner of the yard. Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, "This is just right, you can mash the boiled hawthorn until it becomes soft. Wash it first. Put it in the yard, and it will become dusty over time." "Good." Songbin quickly scooped up water and rinsed it. Qiuzu also went over to help. Songbin said, "Then I'll fetch water again." There was not much water in the water tank, so Songbin used a pole to pick up a wooden bucket and go to the back mountain to fetch water. The well in their village is at the foot of the back mountain, not far from the village, and it goes back and forth very quickly. Zhang Ziluo looked at Aunt Song and her family, and felt that the family was hard-working and quick, and also very warm and harmonious. She also thought it was good. So she is also willing to help them. Otherwise, even if it is the Wei family, Zhang Ziluo may not be able to help. While she was busy like this, Zhang Ziluo took a look at the fairy tofu standing next to her. Ziluo Zhang used a spoon and pressed it lightly. It felt like pressing tofu and it was completely solidified. Zhang Ziluo said to Qiuzu, "Go to the kitchen and get a kitchen knife. These fairy tofu are ready. Cut them into a big pot and have a taste." Qiuzu was stunned, "Is it going to be fine so soon?" With that said, she excitedly went into the house to get a kitchen knife and quickly handed it to Zhang Ziluo. Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, "Don't be in a hurry, just take it slow." Zhang Ziluo used a knife to cut the fairy tofu in the basin. When she was cutting, she felt that just looking at it made her happy. "Looks like jelly." Cut the gracilis and put it in a clean pot. Then he cut 2 small pieces, scooped out one piece with a small spoon and gave it to Qiuzu to eat. "Try how it tastes first." Qiuzu took it into his mouth without hesitation. This meal shocked even the green bamboos. "Miss, this thing is so delicious. It's refreshing, has a cool and refreshing feeling, and is very comfortable if you eat it in summer. It can also relieve the heat." Qiuzu really finds it incredible. She didn't even expect that tree leaves could make such delicious food. But if it weren't for the young lady's teaching, they would never have been able to come up with such a method. The lady is still awesome. Looking at Qiuzu's expression, Zhang Ziluo smiled. They don't have such leaves in Donghe village. If she had, she would have been making fairy tofu when she was in Donghe village. But there are quite a lot of these leaves here in Zhangzhou. They are all over the mountains and plains. So Grandma Song and her family can make a lot of fairy tofu. It depends on the market feedback. However, Aunt Song also helped with the stewardship in the past. Since she is the steward, she naturally has some abilities. So it should be possible to set up a stall and do business. Besides, this thing has no cost. As long as this thing can be sold, the copper coins earned are pure profits. If you like it sweet, you can add some sugar. If you like it spicy, you can add some salt, some chili pepper, some minced garlic, and some vinegar. As Zhang Ziluo spoke, she saw Song Zuzu blinking and watching eagerly. Zhang Ziluo cut a small piece and handed it to Song Zuzu and said, "It's a bit cold, eat it slowly." Song Zuzu ate it into his mouth and felt it was delicious. He smiled happily and his little teeth were exposed. Zhang Ziluo couldn't help but lament that children's happiness is really simple. Seeing Aunt Song come out of the house, Zhang Ziluo said, "Aunt Song, the fairy tofu is ready. Come over and have a taste." End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 328. Chapter 328, Chaos in the South, 3 updates, please vote for me. Grandma Song came over and was surprised when she looked at the pieces of green tofu. It tastes delicious just by looking at it. She had never seen tofu of this color before. Mama Song took a small piece of it with a spoon and ate it into her mouth. She was surprised and said, "My dear, this thing is really delicious." Kuizu said, "Miss taught us the method, just thinking that we can use the stall to sell and earn some money to support our family. This stuff is delicious. There must be a lot of people going to the stall to buy it. I've never seen anything like this in this town." Aunt Song is very confident about this. Mama Song went to town before and naturally knew some markets in Zhoucheng. This thing is a rare thing. Seeing Aunt Song full of praise, Zhang Ziluo felt relieved. Zhang Ziluo said, "I'll make some minced garlic later, and I'll adjust the taste, and it will have a different taste when you eat it." Kuizu hurriedly said, "I'm going to get some garlic. I've planted some garlic in the vegetable field. I'm going to pull it back." Some of the vegetables that are used daily are grown in the vegetable fields or in the yards by the villagers, so that they are convenient for eating. For example, green onions, garlic, coriander, etc. Even Grandma Song's family also planted some vegetables in the yard. There are onions, greens, radish, and pepper. The yard is not big, but it feels very different when growing vegetables. By the way, I need some chili. Mammy Song picked some red peppers from the vegetable patch in the yard. Aunt Song washed the peppers and Zhang Ziluo went to the house to cut them with a kitchen knife. Kuizu came back after a while. Kuizu peeled the garlic and handed it to Zhang Ziluo, who cut it into minced garlic. Then season with chili garlic paste, vinegar and a little salt, and mix it with a plate of fairy tofu cold dish. Taste this again. Kuizu and Grandma Song used chopsticks to taste the taste, and were even more surprised by the taste. "Yummy, this tastes delicious. This kind of cold dish is an authentic cold dish even if it is served in a restaurant." Song Zheng was filled with emotion after eating it. "I have never had such a cold dish before, even in the capital." As stewards of the Wei Mansion, they sometimes eat a lot of delicious food. This dish is really good. In this case, Sister Song, you can set up a stall to sell such fairy tofu. Mother Song's eyes lit up. "This is a good idea. Miss, we don't know how to thank you." Nowadays, Grandma Song and her family don't know how to repay their young lady's kindness. Zhang Ziluo said, "Aunt Song, if you really thank me, then live a good life and don't say such things." "Well." Aunt Song choked with sobs and nodded. When Songbin came back and tasted it, he was even more excited and speechless for a while. "It's really delicious." He felt really incredible in his heart. The leaves of the trees on the mountain can actually be made into such delicious food. With so many such leaves on the mountain, you can imagine how much tofu can be made. Songbin's heart was excited and he felt the blood in his body was boiling. He was thinking about doing something big. If the fairy tofu is popular, he can carry a pole and sell it in the streets. Just like selling tofu. Thinking of these, Songbin was very motivated. He wants to make more money so that his family can have enough to eat. He also wants to buy some cotton so that he can make thick quilts and cotton padded clothes. Although it doesn't snow here in winter, it is also a bit wet and cold. Even if you wear thin clothes, you will still get cold easily. Also, if life gets better at home, parents won't have to work so hard, and if they eat well, their bodies will be strong. Mother and daughter-in-law don't have to be reluctant to eat eggs. They always save eggs so that they can sell them to support the family. In fact, eggs are a good thing. Songbin thought about these and his whole body was filled with strength. Pour the water into the water jar. When the water jar is full, you go to the yard to chop wood again. Looking very motivated. Soon, the hawthorns in the pot were cooked until they were soft. Zhang Ziluo said, "Pour these hawthorns into a stone mortar and beat them into mud. This is strenuous work." Songbin came over and took the initiative to do it. Songjin wanted to do all these things, but Songbin didn't let him go. He also felt sorry for his father, and he couldn't bear to do anything he could do to make his father tired. "Dad, just rest, and I'll do it. It won't take much effort to fight these. It is true that the hawthorns have been boiled until they are soft, so you can just puree them directly. Place the puree into a pot, add sugar, and cook over low heat while stirring. This process must be done over low heat. Boil until it is still and scoop it out." After the cooking was completed, Zhang Ziluo asked Kuizu to use a clean flat tray as a container. Find a few clean containers, put them in and spread them out evenly. Zhang Ziluo explained and demonstrated at the same time. It's good to spread it out like this after it's dried. It becomes the fruit peel. Cut it into pieces and wrap it up to make snacks. You can sell it as a snack stall. If you are in a hurry, you can also dry it. After teaching the method to Aunt Song and the others, Zhang Ziluo was ready to go back. Mama Song's family was particularly reluctant to leave Zhang Ziluo and wanted to give her something. Zhang Ziluo didn't want anything. In the end, she couldn't resist the enthusiasm of Aunt Song and the others, so she could only take some vegetables first. Took some cabbage and radish. Zhang Ziluo was ready to find Kui Hejin after coming out of Honglan village. I haven't seen Kui Hejin for several days, and Zhang Ziluo misses him too. But Kui Hejin also said that he would wait for her to come over, and she believed what he said. He always keeps his word whenever he says it. But I have to eat tonight, so I'd better buy something to cook. Zhang Ziluo strolled around the market, planning to buy some meat and other vegetables. While shopping, she also heard some people discussing. "Have you heard that General Gong Sun-woo is dead? Really or not, didn't you attack the city some time ago?" "Of course it's true, it's just hearsay, but it's absolutely true. I heard that Gong Sun-woo offended many people and was killed by his enemies. Isn't Gong Sun-woo very powerful? How could he be killed by his enemies? No matter what happens, our Zhangzhou is safe anyway, and they don't need to attack the city. This news is nothing. I heard that there is still chaos in the south. I heard that there are refugees fleeing, and they are thinking of escaping to our Zhangzhou side. But our Zhangzhou city does not open the city gate because we want to prevent the evil spirits from sneaking into the city. It's just that someone took the lead in making trouble before. Fortunately, His Highness Taizhen sent troops to protect everyone. I heard that the refugees from the south are running that way now. They shouldn't have gone south because of the war in the first place." Everyone was discussing the news. Although their voices were low, Zhang Ziluo still heard it. After hearing this, Zhang Ziluo's mind froze. Didn't Emperor Nan take his officials to flee to the south, but failed to manage half of the country in the south? Zhang Ziluo was thoughtful, hurriedly bought her things and went to the bamboo house on the mountain to find Kui Hejin. As soon as Zhang Ziluo walked to the mountain, she saw Kui Hejin's figure. "Today I have added another chapter, 3 updates and 6,000 words. I will continue to work hard, and I also ask for your support, my little cuties. Your support is the motivation for coding." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Space Doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 329. Chapter 329 Honey, First Update. Zhang Ziluo originally thought that she would have to arrive at the wooden house to see Kui Hejin. Unexpectedly, she saw Kui Hejin as soon as she entered the mountain. He jumped down from the tree, his white clothes were better than snow, and his whole body carried a noble aura, 1 part as jade, 7 parts as immortal. Zhang Ziluo felt astonished just by looking at Kui Hejin. A sentence can't help but flash in my mind, that is, the stranger is like jade, and the young master is unparalleled in the world. He has a certain aura when wearing white clothes, and he can also wear black to make him feel mysterious. Just seeing Kui Hejin, Zhang Ziluo's eyes burst with bright colors. husband. Zhang Ziluo took the things and ran towards Kui Hejin happily. The joy in her eyes were so obvious. It seemed that seeing him was an extremely happy thing. This is indeed the case. Zhang Ziluo felt happy when she saw Kui Hejin. Kui Hejin watched Zhang Ziluo running quickly with something, and her heart tightened. Like the wind, the figure suddenly came to Zhang Ziluo and hugged her gently. Kui Hejin moved gently and whispered, "Be careful, slow down, what if you fall?" Seeing Zhang Ziluo running so fast, his brain had no other reaction except that he was afraid that she would fall. At this moment, holding the person in his arms, his heart settled down. When he looked down at Zhang Ziluo, there was a longing look in his eyes. Although he hadn't seen her for a few days, it felt like she hadn't seen him for a long time. When I was studying in the past, my classmates would occasionally read storybooks and speak a few romantic words. One day without seeing you is like 3 autumns. He didn't understand it at that time, but now he really feels the meaning of the words. Zhang Ziluo leaned in Kui Hejin's arms, smelled the familiar and pleasant scent on his body, and smiled softly, "With you here, I will definitely not fall. Besides, you forgot, I can also do Kung Fu." Kui Hejin actually forgot about it. He was just worried. "Are you tired these days? Although I want to see her, I want to see her as soon as possible." But Kui Hejin has always respected and supported her. Knowing that she had something to arrange, she waited patiently. "It's just that he comes here every day to take a look, and he doesn't know when she will come." Zhang Ziluo shook her head and said, "It's okay. Only." "Just what?" Zhang Ziluo paused and looked at Kui Hejin with pitiful eyes. Kui Hejin hated Zhang Ziluo's look the most. My heart immediately softened, and I asked softly in a low voice, "What's wrong?" When asked, Kui Hejin became nervous. "Just miss you." Zhang Ziluo looked up at Kui Hejin, with longing in her eyes. She really missed him and wasn't lying. Her feelings for him started in her last life. It's just that she has been suppressing it since she was reborn into this world. Now that she wants to understand many things, she no longer hides them or suppresses them. If you think about it, say it. Kui Hejin's heart trembled violently, and his heartstrings seemed to have been violently plucked. His throat rolled, emotions surged, and he said hoarsely, "Yeah." He wanted to say that he missed her too. It's just that it's always hard to express what's in my heart. Kui Hejin is used to being introverted, and his emotions are also very restrained. Although he didn't say anything, the way he looked at Zhang Ziluo changed. There seemed to be lingering deep feelings pouring down like a flood. "I will be by your side from now on." This sentence is a response to Zhang Ziluo's words. Zhang Ziluo knew that he had a taciturn temperament from his previous life. Not good at speaking from the heart. If she hadn't known that he had done so much for her, she would sometimes not be able to tell what he was thinking, so forbearing and restrained. "Can't you say something else?" Zhang Ziluo gently shook Kui Hejin's hand. Kui Hejin looked at her hand, held it gently and said, "It's a little cold outside, let's go back to the house first. Whatever you want to hear, I'll tell you when I get back home." When Kui Hejin faced Zhang Ziluo, he was always good-tempered and his voice was extremely gentle. He cherished the days when she was around. "She used to be by my side every day, so I thought she could see him too. But since she left Donghe village, he realized that missing her was really torturous." So at this moment, Kui Hejin held her hand tightly. "I wish I could pamper her and love her well. Whatever she wants, he gives it to her. He would tell her whatever she wanted to hear. He doesn't know how to coax girls, but he will learn to do it." Kui Hejin took the thing in Zhang Ziluo's hand with his other hand. Zhang Ziluo walks a little slowly because Kui Hejin's legs are really long. But Kui Hejin is very careful and always takes care of Zhang Ziluo, and will deliberately slow down when walking. Zhang Ziluo pouted and said, Can't you just say whether you miss me or not? Kui Hejin looked at her like a child, a little funny. Yeah. What does mean? Think. Although it was just one word, Zhang Ziluo understood what Kui Hejin meant. Her heart instantly felt a sweet feeling, and she couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. I just feel that he usually doesn't say anything, but when he actually says something like this, it can make people's hearts be filled with honey. So he also cares about her. And she also had an inexplicable feeling of palpitations. The girl's heart was beating wildly. Are you trying to trick me? No. What he said was true. And only he knows how much he misses her. Looking at Kui Hejin's serious look, Zhang Ziluo stopped teasing him. She said, when I went to the market to buy things, I heard some people discussing something. Yeah, Kui Hejin responded gently to Zhang Ziluo, telling her that he was listening carefully. Zhang Ziluo said, many people are saying that there is chaos in the south. Will it be dangerous for you to accompany me on a trip to southern Xinjiang at this time? Don't be afraid, I will protect you. He will use his own life to protect the people he cherishes. Zhang Ziluo said, that's not what I'm talking about. I will also protect myself and you. In this life, when she saw him, she told herself that she would protect him. Kui Hejin paused. No one had ever said such a thing to him. Said I would protect him. Looking at his young wife's serious expression, Kui Hejin did not doubt the authenticity of her words. But he would not put her in any danger. There was a flood in the south, but the southern emperor and the officials of the court paid no attention to it. The officials below concealed it and did not report it. It was only after some lives were lost that the news could no longer be concealed. Some officials who cared about the people desperately reported the disaster, but they were suppressed by the officials above. The good officials died, which aroused public anger. In addition, the court sent troops to suppress it, so that riots broke out in some places. The southern emperor is also increasing taxes in order to win the war. It's just that most people just want a way to survive. The southern emperor and his royal highness Taizhun each occupy half of the country, and the city gates are large. It is difficult for the people in the south to escape to the north. Everyone can only find ways to escape and continue to go south. Some people are going to the land south of Lingnan, and some have heard that there are virgin forests and primitive tribes in Guanglan. There are no emperors to rule and no taxes. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 330. Chapter 330 touched in the heart, second update. Zhang Ziluo was shocked when she heard this. It turns out there are primitive tribes. Kui Hejin said, well, there are some primitive tribes in the southernmost area. The forests are dense and there are many wild animals. They are also very dangerous. It is difficult to survive without someone to lead them. It's just that Emperor Nan didn't do anything, and the people didn't care so much about finding a way to survive. Zhang Ziluo knew that the emperor's rise to power was not honorable. He only used ruthless means but had no talent for governing the country. Same as the late emperor. Zhang Ziluo doesn't have a good impression of the current emperor either. She believes that with Yun Loxiu's prestige and ability, sooner or later he will occupy the entire Yun kingdom and become the king of the Yun kingdom. That way the people can live and work in peace and contentment. If we go to southern Xinjiang, it's best to disguise ourselves so that no one knows our identity. Kui Hejin said, you can follow the team fleeing the famine. Zhang Ziluo's expression changed and she said, yes, it can still be like this. This is the best way to disguise our identity. Even if we go to southern Xinjiang, it will not be easy for us to expose ourselves. It's better to secretly inquire about information. The reason why all the people Yun Loxiu sent to southern Xinjiang were probably because it was heavily guarded and the shadow guards had their own way of detecting such dark guards. No other forces are allowed to enter southern Xinjiang. But if it is ordinary people or people who are fleeing, the forces in southern Xinjiang will not pay too much attention. Moreover, Yun Loxiao also gave her some scrolls, and she also checked some information about southern Xinjiang. Although the southern Xinjiang area is under the rule of the Yun Kingdom, it is actually managed by local forces. They are just like a small kingdom, and the people there can live normally. And there may be a lot of supplies in southern Xinjiang. Seeing Zhang Ziluo's eyes brightening and the sun shining brightly, Kui Hejin also had a smile on his face. Soon, the two people arrived at the wooden house. Kui Hejin asked, "What do you want to eat for dinner?" Zhang Ziluo said, "This sentence means I am asking you, what do you want to eat, and I will cook it for you." Kui Hejin gently touched Zhang Ziluo's hair and said, "It's okay, I'll do it. You rest." Kui Hejin doesn't want Zhang Ziluo to be tired. He wanted to take good care of her personally. "Then let me help you." Zhang Ziluo insisted that Kui Hejin could only let her help. Zhang Ziluo looked at Kui Hejin's knife skills, watched Kui Hejin's cooking steps, and watched him seasoning, and she was impressed that his cooking skills were very good. "How do you study when you are not at home?" Kui Hejin said, "Read more on weekdays." When he was at home, Kui Hejin wanted to learn these things, and he would cook whatever Ziluo wanted to eat in the future. When he came here later, he also collected some food books and wanted to learn how to cook more meals for her. He couldn't bear to let her work too hard. Zhang Ziluo now likes to pester Kui Hejin. While he was busy in the kitchen, she also liked to talk next to him. "I forgot to tell you that I met people from the Wei Mansion, including Grandma Song and Kuizu." Zhang Ziluo also told Kui Hejin everything about Aunt Song and the others. Kui Hejin felt extremely at ease listening to Zhang Ziluo's ramble. The two of them seemed to have returned to the time they lived in Donghe village. His brows were soft and he was busy cooking. Kui Hejin also took good care of Zhang Ziluo while eating. After having a full meal, Kui Hejin cleaned up and boiled water for Zhang Ziluo to take a bath. When Zhang Ziluo took a shower, clean clothes were placed on the table in the room. After Zhang Ziluo got out of the bathtub and put on these clothes, she felt very warm in her heart. She almost forgot to bring a change of clothes when she came. When Zhang Ziluo came out, she asked, "Did you prepare all these?" Kui Hejin explained, "Well, I knew you were coming over, so I went to the store and bought it. It has been washed." He knew that Zhang Ziluo liked to be clean, so after buying them, he washed them and put them away for her to use when she came. "You are so attentive, these clothes are just the right size." Speaking of this, Kui Hejin's ears felt slightly hot. Fortunately it was dark and there were only candles in the room, otherwise Zhang Ziluo would really be able to see clearly. After Kui Hejin washed up and came out, he saw that Zhang Ziluo's hair was still wet. He stepped forward to tuck her hair up and release the inner strength in his hands. After a while, Zhang Ziluo's hair was dried. Zhang Ziluo wiped her hair and said in surprise, "It actually worked. Have you used your inner strength?" "It doesn't matter, just a little." He knew that she didn't like wiping her hair. "Sometimes I complain about the hair dryer." Even though he doesn't know what a hair dryer is. But he thought she probably wished her hair had dried earlier. It was still early, and the two of them did not go to bed early. Instead, Zhang Ziluo pulled Kui Hejin to talk together. Kui Hejin listened to her patiently. "You may not know what is going on in Donghe village now. Niang and Qingkai mentioned it in the letter to me. They said they bought a store where they could make and sell bread, as well as sell brown sugar, balm, lip balm, etc. She also helped collect brown sugar from the village and sell it in the store. The Wajia Escort Bureau also helped collect some brown sugar and sold it in Fukan, a nearby state. My parents also sent letters. Although they didn't tell me my specific life experience, they probably guessed that I already knew about it. Now that the grandson is in charge of the north, they can feel free to let their younger brothers study, saying they plan to send them to school. My sister's face has completely healed and her temperament has become much more cheerful. Mom plans to pick up her embroidery work. My mother said that her embroidery is an ancestral craft and can be easily recognized by others, so she didn't dare to embroider anything before. Now she plans to teach her sisters the art of embroidery. Also, my father's bellows are now known to be useful. Many people buy them in towns and cities. There are also umbrellas he makes. Because of their good quality, the umbrellas they make have large handles that can block the rain, and they are also cheap. The paintings are also beautiful, so many people buy them. I just didn't expect my mother to be able to draw. She said she would teach her sisters how to draw, because embroidery also requires good patterns. Speaking of these, Zhang's Hiluo looked gentle. Kui Hejin likes to see Zhang's Hiluo like this. Just being with her made him feel at ease. Look, I've said so much, but you haven't even talked about you. Kui Hejin thought for a while and said softly, before I left Donghe village, I went to Xingshan village to find my parents. I wanted to know where you were. I don't know, I can only find you in my own way. Hearing this, Zhang's Hiluo asked, why are you looking for me? You are my wife. No matter where you are, I want to find you and bring you home or bring you back to me. These simple words touched Zhang's Hiluo's heart. After a pause, Kui Hejin continued, later, I found my master, took the medicine prepared by the master, and restored my internal strength. At the same time, the master also passed on all his internal strength to me. End of this chapter.